So thank you very much. The next talk will be by Doug Brück and Hans-Martin Heinkel. So Doug Brück is a director at Dassault Systems for modeling, for Modelica, multi-physics, control engineering, and architecture. And Hans-Martin Heinkel is a colleague of mine from Bosch. He's a senior expert coordinating simulation activities within Bosch and representing Bosch in many standardization and coordination activities such as ProStep SSE project and the SSP project. So this will be a recorded talk, so I asked the technicians to run this SSP Traceability Demonstrator video.
And maybe just a small clarification, you will see Hans-Martin Heinkel and Pierre in this presentation presenting it.
Okay.
But Doug Brück is here also, so he will be able to answer also questions, and I think Peter Lobner as well.
Thanks for the clarification. I'm sorry.
No problem.
Also, a warm welcome from our side to the presentation, Enabling a Credible Simulation Process with SSP Traceability. My name is Hans-Martin Heinkel. I'm working at Bosch in the field of virtual prototyping. In my part, I will focus on the motivation and the solution approach. Then Pierre will present the technical details and the showcase. I think most of you know Pierre. He's involved in several Modelica projects. So, what is the status in the usage of simulation? We do a lot of simulation, we have great tools, we have great modeling languages, we have a lot of experience. And we trust our simulations. But do others trust our simulations? Decisions and releases are increasingly based on the result of simulations. Decisions have far-reaching consequences. Now the question is, how do we make it possible for someone to make a decision with a clear conscience based on simulation results? Therefore, we have to present simulation results in a credible way. What does that mean? We have to get answers to questions like which requirements, which steps, why these steps, which models, why these models. And now the big question is, how can we easily and reliably answer these questions? First, we need a process frame which phases and steps that defines a common understanding of the simulation process, and which can be individually performed. This is in our understanding the basis of a credible simulation process. An example for a credible simulation process was defined by the ProStep Smart SA project and validated by the public-funded project Z-Level. Second, traceability as basis for credibility. The information is uniform structured in each step and then glued together to a gapless information chain. The result is a so-called glue particle. Now I hand over to Pierre.
So how do we go about creating this gapless information chain? For the demonstrator, we will focus on the credible simulation process, though the overall approach is fairly generic. At the highest abstraction level, the CSP consists out of a set of overall phases. Based on the analysis of the engineering task, requirements are defined, design specifications are drawn up, and implementation is performed. The simulation is then executed and the simulation results are evaluated. The overall quality is assured, and in the end a decision is reached on the fulfillment of simulation objectives. Along this process chain, a lot of information is generated that needs to be captured across a heterogeneous environment involving many different tools and formats. The SSP Traceability Specification provides formats for glue particles in the context of a CSP and SSP-based approach to simulation. It is based on SSP formats and principles. For example, we are using SSP-style zip packaging. All references to resources are URI-based. With the support for multiple formats, we are using the SSP common XML schema components and provide extensibility via annotations. And for use cases where this makes sense, an SSP traceability package can be treated as a pure SSP package for tools like simulators, which only support SSP itself and not the SSP traceability specification. The generic approach is based on phases and steps, with the current definitions in the format based on the CSP. Each phase contains a number of steps, with each step providing the specific traceability information for that step. Each step provides the same set of information, namely inputs, procedure description, outputs, and rationale information pertaining to this step. All of these reference resources, like specification documents, models, architecture descriptions, which are referenced in their respective formats. Additionally, metadata, signatures, and classifications related to the resources can be captured. The glue particle ties all of those together with the process description and additionally provides deep linking, lifecycle information, and classifications, for example. We will now look at a prototypical application of SSP traceability across a sample process based on CSP and SSP. Using a prototype implementation of SSP traceability, that excellent solution integrated into their EasySSP cloud-based SSP editor, we can see how requirement specifications can be drawn into the simulation process at an early stage. If we go to the architecture step, we can see how an SSP-based simulation architecture is drawn up in EasySSP, describing the stimuli, the system under test, etc. Since this step is based on standardized SSP, we can also open and edit the same architecture in PMSF FMI Bench, our FMI and SSP tool, which also supports a prototypical implementation of SSP traceability. In the next phase, where models and parameters are implemented, we will look at Daimler from Dassault Systèmes, where the models were created and exported as FMUs as part of the demonstrator. These were transported back to EasySSP or FMI Bench for integration into the simulation architecture. Simulation execution was again planned in EasySSP, where the simulation project, parameter variation, and simulation runs were set up. The execution itself was carried out in the cloud using EasySSP and a simulator backend based on FMI Bench that is part of a cooperation between Excellent Solutions and PMSF. The simulation results produced were again referenced in the SSP traceability package and can be seen here for the DC motor test case. Since the fully configured simulation with FMUs, parameters, and so on is available as SSP, the same simulation could also be run in Daimler, using Dassault Systèmes' prototypical SSP and SSP traceability implementation. And as you can see, it produced the same results as we saw previously, and this kind of cross-tool exchange with back-to-back testing can, for example, support simulation validation efforts, which are an important part of quality assurance that we have seen as part of this CSP process. In the end, all of the steps performed in the various tools leave their trace in the SSP traceability package, which can then be used to document and archive the overall process in a neutral manner. To summarize, credibility is key to acceptance of simulation for high-stakes decision-making, as we have seen, and this is increasingly going to be the case in the future. Credibility requires a common understanding of the simulation process, and that's where the credible simulation process comes into the picture as a kind of baseline process that you can use to tie all of this together. And that common understanding then allows for traceability of results to all of the inputs that go into those results. And in order to capture all of that knowledge, the glue particle approach really tries to allow traceability across the multiple parties and tool chains involved in the overall simulation picture. The current status of CSP and the glue particle approach you can see on this slide. The SmartSE project defined the initial credible simulation process, and then that process was validated in the set-level research project, and a refined release of the credible simulation process was performed in July of this year, and it is available at the URL that you can see on the slide. A draft version of the SSP Traceability Specification is also publicly available at the GitHub repository on the slide, and prototype implementations were performed during some of the development tasks and the demonstrator by Excellent Solutions with their EasySSP tool, ProStep with their Tracy tool, PMSF with FMI Bench, Dassault System with Daimola, and some internal Bosch tools were also created that use the SSP Traceability Specification for various traceability purposes. If you're interested in the CSP, SSP Traceability, or the Smart Systems Engineering project overall, in November there will be a presentation day at the SmartSE project that will be open to non-SmartSE members. And there you will see some demonstrators, more detailed overview of SSP traceability, the credible simulation process, and other SmartSE topics. And if you're interested in that, please get in contact. The precise scheduling and day are not yet confirmed, but the moment we know, we will let you know. Additionally, the phase 5 of the SmartSE project starts in 2022, and it is open to new members. So if you're interested in the topics of smart systems engineering, credible simulation process, SSP traceability, or other related topics, then I would urge you to also contact us or the IVIP association in order to join one of the next meetings and consider joining the SmartSE Phase 5 project phase going forward. And with this, I'd like to thank you for your attention, and I think we are now open for questions from the participants. Thank you.
Thanks, Hans-Martin and Pierre.